me, but somebody else it might be. I'm not a repair person, if I kid. Those are hard because a lot of them are implicit biases that the people they're not necessarily consciously aware of. And so, yeah, in those ones, you do want to respect that therapeutic relationship, but it's also an opportunity for education. And that's the hard part, when it's like 3 in the morning and you call to need admission, and somebody's asking you if you play football, and I'm like, no, it's 3 in the morning. Like, why are you here? Why are you in the hospital? What's going on? So you don't want to sit there and explain to them that you are indeed a physician. Like, why should I have to justify or prove to them that I did go to medical school, and then hopefully I don't make a mistake, because if I do, we know what physician they're going to point fingers at, because I'm the one that, as far as they're concerned, might not even be a doctor. It's days passed, and pretty much all my life I wouldn't really respond to these kind of things, because it was almost like a badge of honor to just be like, no, you can say whatever you want about me. It's not going to affect me, because it's my choice how I respond to you being ignorant or racist or hurtful. It's a personal choice. That's changed, because this kind of stuff just keeps happening and happening and happening, and it's whether or not I choose to be offended is kind of irrelevant now, because all of us need to start having these conversations with people, and all of us need to start being able to say, hey man, that's not really an appropriate comment. If they're offended that I say your comment's not appropriate, I'm sorry, it's not appropriate. And somebody else might get really offended, whether or not I am. Like, the culture has to be to comment on those types of interactions and not ignore them. Obviously, there's a time and place for it, more aggressive dismissal, but obviously it's a good opportunity to take like the higher road and just say, okay, that's not appropriate because of this. I would appreciate if you wouldn't say it because of that. And then all of a sudden, somebody that has no experience with the minority, but assumes they're one way, they have an entirely different experience to base it on. And that can be a really powerful thing. I really need a drink of water, so thank you. So yeah, it's hard, because when we were talked about all these types of rallies and just doing discussions and whatnot, it's like, where do you start? Like, okay, let's just reverse systemic racism, because we've been able to do that so far. Like, now is really the time that we're going to switch it. Bottom line is the conversations have to start happening. This racism isn't something that those of us affected by it should be scared to bring up, because we don't want to offend people that are being racist. If you offend somebody, don't be surprised if they say, hey, that's offensive because of this. And whether or not you understand why they're offended, it doesn't matter. It's just having the decency to understand that you've offended them in one way or another, and just, it's that simple. It's okay, yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Let's just move on, and then you have a good relationship, and you actually have a learning experience. So the ask that I would have of everybody is to kind of pause on these interactions. When something's happened, when something is said that can be interpreted or whatever, however you want to say it, just pause and kind of collect yourself and then say something. It can be very easy, like I wish you wouldn't talk like that, or I'm just going to step out of the room for a minute. Just something. There has to be some kind of comment for it. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be blatant. It's just we can't keep not talking about it, because one of the most hurtful things is when you're experiencing these encounters and you go and you're like, man, that kind of sucked. I want to talk to somebody about it. And you go to talk to them, they're like, maybe they just meant that you did that. Maybe they meant this, or maybe they meant that, or I think you're being oversensitive. I mean, the same things we've heard before. And that is the most isolating and hurtful thing ever, because you're just like, I just feel like now I'm just a big oversensitive scab that's just waiting to bleed the second somebody says anything about a sport, because that'll probably raise your face. It's not how it is. Racism's never been about the words. It's about the way that people don't see you as an equal person. So regardless of whether or not you understand what the person is offended about, if you've never been in the position where you're trying to interpret what somebody meant by a comment, you probably won't get why this person might be offended by something that is not naturally an offensive statement. There's, oh, you look like a football player. Okay, well, I'm not small, and that means I guess I'm a little bit fit, so that's not too bad. I don't know, it could be a racist thing. Either way, you just have to have some patience with that, and then re-educate people, and that's about all.